Their stories are almost unbelievable, and without 8 voices, their stories would go unheard. Who thinks to stop these people and sit them down and ask them to tell their experiences? Now their voices are heard, and what different expressions they echo. From a mother whose tribute to her dead son took her from Camp Bastion to Kilimanjaro to number 10 Downing Street, to the experience of a young POW in Stalag Luft 3 during the Great Escape of World War II. From a young couple whose dreams of life together could have been utterly wrecked when he came home from Afghanistan as our first triple amputee, to a widow who thought her husband joining the TA was just a bit like Dad's army, until she was told he'd been killed by a murderous IED, and she's now bringing up her 5 daughters alone. These voices sing one song, how the human spirit just has to soldier on. In this short compilation, you'll meet the wife, the mother, the daughter, the actor, the lovers, the war veteran, and even one man and his dog. First, Carl, whose life-changing moment was caught on camera as a petrol bomb was thrown by a hostile mob in Afghanistan. He is the soldier you see now engulfed in flames. Can you believe, despite 60% burns to his body, he has rebuilt himself? He's engaged to be married, raised thousands of pounds for charity, run literally 100 marathons, starting with the London, a huge challenge for anyone, let alone Carl.
I always knew that physically and mentally I'd rise up to any challenges, but I mentally prepared myself that being a burns victim, there's quite visible scars, quite unattractive sort of results. So in those very early days, I did mentally prepare myself that it might be, quite a quiet, lonely life. It is hard to believe that looking back on the picture, that was actually myself at one point, and in a way, it is hard to look back on it and feel any regret or any actual pain now, because since that day, just the actions of others, the actions of the military, and the care I've received, it's that too much good has come from that one single bad day.
And on the 18th of April, which was Gary's mum's birthday, they brought Gary home for his repatriation. And I remember they brought Graham Livingston's coffin out first, and I cried when I seen that. And I remember when I dried my tears and looked, I thought, I'm not going to cry. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to proudly and lovingly watch Gary come home every bit the way I can cry later. But at that moment, I was determined. I was going to stand there, and I was going to make him as proud of me as I was of him. And they brought his coffin off, and it was such a shock, and the blast of emotions. I mean, I was upset when I seen Livy's coffin, and then when they said we're going to bring Gary home now, I was totally unprepared for that. But I didn't cry. But my daughters completely fell to pieces, and it was the first time, as a mum, I couldn't offer them any support or comfort.
Then, soon after that, the Great Escape took place, and I always remember that night there was a shot rang out, just one shot, and we were all on the parade ground. We used to have an appel twice a day, which was where they counted and recounted us, and we were on the parade ground all day in the freezing cold, whilst they counted and recounted us with no help from us, because people kept moving out deliberately. They were trying to establish how many people had escaped, and I think it was 76. Then, subsequently, the news came back that the 50 had been murdered, and there's a classic sentence that Massey, who was then the senior British officer group captain Massey said to them, "And how many were injured?" And they said none, and which they were just murdered, taken by the wayside and shot.
I'm just sat there in this cloud of smoke and cordite. Not really, I didn't even know my legs were missing. I was just sat there, stunned, kind of like getting a really good clout around the back of the head. And I thought to myself, oh, something's gone wrong here, something's gone wrong. And the lads are mucking about, someone's thrown a firework or something. And then I looked down and saw my legs and realised, oh shit, this is serious. Geordie and I, we always had a weapon on us. We always had our pistols with us, always. This one time I didn't. And I feel quite lucky that I didn't have a pistol with me, because I'd have probably just...
Do you really think you might have?
Oh, I would have attempted to shoot myself.
And you asked him to?
No, well, I did ask this guy to, but I think if I'd have had my pistol, I'd have ended up shooting my nose off or my ear or something. And the way my luck was going, I wasn't feeling that lucky that day. So anyway, Geordie was dead. This guy was there, sort of telling me to calm down. He was a Geordie lad as well, and he was, calm down, Swifty, calm down, man. And I was going, don't tell me to calm down, just fucking shoot me, just fucking shoot me.
Your injury was C5, wasn't it? Which is the same as Christopher Reeves.
Yeah.
And so did you automatically think, well, that's it, life is now a wheelchair if I'm lucky?
And initially, they told my parents that don't expect us to come off the ventilator. She'll be on that for the rest of her life. And certainly when I said to them that I would walk out that hospital, I remember Emma, the sister on the ward at the time, saying to me about 8 weeks later, we didn't know what to do with you. We really didn't know what to do with you. Because they were just like, she is so determined that she's going to walk again. That they thought this girl is going to crash and burn. And they were waiting for it. I think they're still waiting for it. The team there was fantastic, and my physio, Cara, she just said, I don't need to push you. You're just pushing yourself. Yes. First, when I started sitting in the wheelchair, my goals were to have a cigarette, to have a glass of wine, to light my cigarette, to open a bottle of wine, to walk out of there. They were my goals, and the nurses laughed at me. Having been in the medical profession and knowing about goal planning and stuff like that, they were trying to get serious things out of me. I said, no. Cigarette, glass of wine, bottle of wine, walk out. Everything else will come.
I went to my parents to have Christmas with them, and then he was obviously flying back, so I'd pick him up and we was going to have New Year's together. So it's just a case of we was going to have 2 Christmases.
You want to be back home and, you know, celebrating with your loved ones. And there I was out baking in the desert sun, going on foot patrols, trying to keep these civilians safe out in Afghanistan. So I think it always goes through your mind. You know, the minute you step out that gate, you think back to your loved ones and, you know, what they're doing, and you hope you come back safe.
I wonder what she was doing.
I have no idea.
I got to my parents a couple of days before Christmas, and he had sent a lovely bouquet of flowers and a teddy bear and that, so and a nice little card saying, sorry, I missed Christmas this year, but I'll make it up in a few days. So that was really nice.
We were in a little shallow bowl for cover. That's the only cover that we could get. As I knelt down, there was this huge explosion, and there's this huge cloud of dust, so I couldn't see anything. You know, my ears were ringing from the explosion. My head, you know, brain was rattling around in my head. And I remember thinking, you know, I need to turn around because I thought this area was behind me. And probably the third time that in my head I said to myself, turn around, something clicked, you know, that I wasn't moving and I couldn't twist like I imagined I would. Even though I couldn't see anything, I would know what position my body was going to be in. And then again, almost in slow motion, the dust started to settle gradually further and further down. And that's when I looked down and, you know, I saw the damage to both my legs.
God, I got the news about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I remember I was sat in my parents' living room just wrapping the last bits in the presents, and Mark's sister phoned, and she said, I'm at my nan and granddad's, and I was like, oh, okay, not really thinking much of it, and she was like, there's a Marine officer here. I was like, okay, it still didn't kind of hit me, and she was like, oh, Mark's been in an accident. Oh, I've spoken about this so many times, I don't know why. And I just had to pass through to my dad. And my dad spoke to Leanne. And he got off the phone. And it just said, Mark's lost a leg. He's all right. But he's lost a leg. And all I could think, we had a couple of conversations before he went out to Afghan. And he said, I'd rather come back in a box than with any limbs missing. So that's all I could think about. My God, what's he going to be like? He's lost a leg. And then a bit later on, we spoke to his dad. And it was a leg and an arm. And then at that point I was like, oh my goodness. Just, it's going to destroy him, absolutely destroy him. And it wasn't until a bit later that obviously we found out it was both legs and an arm.
And next thing I know, there's a doctor and Nicola's by my side. And then the doctor tells me I broke my neck and I'm paralysed and this is it. I look at my wife and she's holding my hand and he said, this is it, it's permanent. And I was just like, what? And I look at Nicola and she's holding my hand and I can't feel it. And I just said to her, what about, I can't pick up the girls? And I was gutted, absolutely gutted. And I spent a lot of time thinking, what's going to happen next? You know, I was thinking about what I'm going to do, how am I going to provide for my family now. And, you know, it was hard to see my little girl, really, my youngest girl, because, you know, she was just toddling. You know, she was just starting to walk when she was 8 months.
Yeah.
So, and the next time I seen her, she was walking in to see me. So, and that was hard. But for my eldest, you know, she still asks questions now, you know, when are you getting out of your chair, Daddy? So, I'm at home. They said, do you want to come in for an assessment? I said, yeah, I'm on my way. When? How quickly? So I'd gone down. They said, and then during the assessment, they said, oh, what would you like the dog to do? What's its primary task? And I said, oh, you know, pick up things. I'd like to go out into a shop and pay for stuff myself. And they said, oh, would you like the dog to empty the washing machine? And I was like, hey, I didn't do the washing before. I don't want to do it now. And I can go and get a paper and pay for it myself. And she will just, you know, pull it out, jump up on the counter, hand my wallet to the cashier. The cashier will just pull out my card and put it in, or take the cash out, hand it back to Kizzy. Kizzy will, you know, jump up on the counter, put it in her mouth, and then put it back.
Wow.
She can't do chip and pin. Not quite.
That'll come.
Yeah, not at the
Yeah.
time. She doesn't work out. She doesn't know my pin number yet.
No, I wouldn't give it to her yet.
He was in a warrior, and they were asked to go out early that morning to because they found out that the Taliban were further down from their fob, storing weapons in a compound. So he was asked to go and take the warrior down there with some others, and James was driving, and they were going down a hill, and there was an IED that had been planted, but it was too deep for the barman to have found it. And I think as well of the angle of the warrior, they said that the impact then was just directly underneath James. 3 days after we lost James, we had his pay slip came through the post, and for the 4 weeks of Afghanistan, he was out there 9 weeks, but for 4 weeks in Afghanistan he earned £1,200. That's what he got after he paid his own life insurance and you know, the tax and NI and so on, and his food. And I couldn't get my head around. I know, and I've been told it so many times, but not that I need to be told it. I know why they joined. They joined because they want to serve their country, and that is correct, honourable, and the right thing to do. But I couldn't get my head around the fact that the country, or this government, or the government at the time, treats them with such little respect that they get paid so badly, which I couldn't understand, because there were so many other people in these jobs do just, quite scary jobs, just petrol tankers to start with. They get a life insurance, they're covered, they get danger money. We're sending them out there to protect us, is what we're told. Yeah, our country don't protect them and don't care for them in the right way, which then means that the soldiers, the armed forces, are leaning on charities that have to look after them. And that is great, that is fantastic, but they shouldn't be there to step in where governments are failing. We never had a conversation about money or what he earned or anything like that. I mean, he was a man in his eyes. He's, and that wasn't my place to ask. And to be honest, I didn't even ask about life insurance because it wasn't something I wanted to bring up. How do you bring that up with your son? So I never knew anything at all. But James had, paid his life insurance and so on, and he'd done all the sensible things. Other than he wasn't very sensible when he did his will, though, because apparently he'd picked his friend Wayne Ellis, who was actually in the vehicle with him at the time, to be his executor, because the only thought plan for that was, well, if anything happens, one of us gets a day off. There was no other big plan, which that I like the thought of that to a point, because
just choose that it's still boys.
Yeah, and they weren't worrying about things that at home or anything like that. It was just oh no, I'm not going to think about it. So that was good. I thought that was quite good. I feel that I'm in a very lonely marriage, if that makes sense. I still feel very married, because I think we've kept life how it was, more or less how Gary was here. And that routine helped me as well. I mean, we have a family night where we all come together, and that was Gary's favourite night. All the girls come for dinner. His mum and dad came for dinner. It's an open night, family, friends. It'll be elbows to elbows and makeshift chairs, but there'll always be a meal there for you if you want to pop around on a Wednesday. Yeah, we'll come. And so I've still kept the same routine. I still live in the same house, but it's a bit of an odd one, really. I never kind of thought about it, because I always think with Gary and always with the girls. So yeah, I think I'm still finding myself, to be honest, Dan. Still finding myself.